I'm extra excited for this year's setup because it just happens that my current bullet journal will be ending right at the end of the new year, so I get to create a new journal for the new year, which is ideal. It doesn't always happen that way. This year I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I want and what I need and what I don't want from my notebook, and I've been thinking a lot about what I can keep and what I can consolidate in this new journal as well, taking a little bit of a different approach to this new year. Now that we've gathered all of our supplies, let's go ahead and sit down and get started. There will be 2 templates available for you as a part of the project that we're doing today. The first is going to be one from a past video that I just did for the journaling planning guide. This is a worksheet that you can download for yourself that discusses your wants, your needs, and what you don't want for your new journals, as well as what you're keeping and what you're leaving as you're migrating to this new journal. So I already did this exercise. Again, that link will be in the descriptions for you below if you'd like to see exactly how that works, but the template will be available for you down there. Also, so excited to be bringing back a classic. I have our square journal, which is what we're going to be doing this year. I've already spaced everything out for you inside of this Archer and Olive Square journal. So if you'd like to print this out for yourself and have an easy cheat sheet for yourself, that link will be down in the descriptions for you as well. What I love about a square journal is that you only have to do one page because it's the same vertical as it is horizontally. So whether you're trying to create 2 columns or 2 rows, it's the same exact spacing, which is pretty incredible. Just another reason to love square journals. One of my favorite things to do with a brand new journal, at least as I'm getting up and running, is set some type of a theme. This isn't something that I carry throughout, but something that I like to kind of get going. So for this notebook, as we set up our pages today, the theme is going to be stamps and ink. We're going to be using stamps throughout for our headers. We're also going to be using this Colorverse ink. I'm so excited about this one just because it's so spectacular. Truly it is. In my previous video, we've already talked about the things we're going to be keeping and what's not coming with us this time. So what we're going to be setting up today to start off, the very first page inside of my journal is going to be an intentions page. I'm going to be borrowing this idea from the Addition to bullet journal where they have an intentions page to kick things off. I really like doing this. This notebook is going to be taking me through the beginning of the year. So it's a great place to get up and running. So for this first page, I'm going to be using this stamp set from Eric Small Things. The name of this set is called Chronicle, and I got these from Cute Things from Japan. Now, they're not always in stock, but I will link them down below in case they do get in stock again. So to get things kicked off, I'm going to be using this giant fountain pen here across the top of the page, and then we'll be writing inside of here with the glistening NGC 1850. And I'm going to be using a B3 calligraphy nib. So this is going to create a really cool mono line inside of here. It's not overly large, but it's not super thin. And I think it's going to work really nicely throughout our page. Because this clear stamp is so big, we need an extra large acrylic block to handle that. I'll be linking all the different sizes and things for you down in the descriptions below. We're also going to be using VersaFine ink throughout. My absolute, hands down, favorite ink to use inside of my bullet journals as I'm creating. What I love about VersaFine ink is it gets all those fine little tiny details in these stamps. You can even see the size of the nib on this. You can see it's a small things on the clip here, and it's just perfection. Because this is a glistening ink from Colorverse, we're going to go ahead and shake it up just a little bit because the glitter is suspended inside of the ink, so gravity likes to pull it down as we're going. So we're just going to give it a little bit of a shake. The index is a major part of the bullet journal method. Creating an index allows you to find future collection pages and things that you're putting inside of here. So anytime you're creating a new page, you're going to go ahead and number that page if it doesn't have a number, and then you're going to bring it right back to your index and write down the main theme as well as the page number. Because your index is the holder of all things, I'm using this stamp set from 365 called Good Job. A lot of office computer type things on top of here. And I thought this makes a lot of sense. We have notes, we have papers, we have our computer, all the collections, all the things come back to your index. Because the pages inside of this 8x8 square are so large, what I like to do is split my page in half. This makes for a whole lot of space for our index. We'll be filling up 2 columns on each side. Using our cheat sheet, we'll see that we have 18 squares with 1 in between, and that's going to give us 37, which is the number of squares that we have across these Archer and Olive square notebooks. I've marked both of those on here with pencil, so I know where I'm going to be going, and I'm going to be using a light gray mild liner from Zebra. And I also have a ruler here that has an angled edge. I always use these whenever I'm using the mild liners because no ink gets trapped underneath of here. So I'm actually going to use this upside down so that this angle is facing up. I'll line that up on my page, and then as I'm drawing down, I don't have to worry about anything smudging. One of the biggest changes to my bullet journal this year is going to be what usually would be my future log, but I'm kind of switching things up this year. I got so much value out of the monthly overviews inside of my night out planner, as well as inside of my yearly task planner that I had earlier this year as well, that I wanted to find a way to bring that into my bullet journal to condense the number of planners that I had. The square journal was perfect for this because of the size and the spacing. A5 was too small, B5 was too small and awkward, but this worked out perfectly. It's a 5 by 7 grid, 5 squares across, 6 squares top to bottom. I counted from the bottom to get my spacing here so that it laid out okay. I have Monday starts. That way, Saturday and Sunday are over here on the other side because something that I really enjoyed doing earlier this year were these bi-weekly tasks, giving myself a 2-week task sprint to get things done. I want to bring this into this bullet journal as well as the planning that I was doing as well. And I think this is going to work out great. I've gone ahead and created enough of these for an entire year. Even though my bullet journal doesn't typically last that long, especially for a square journal, if I'm truly future planning inside of here as I want to be doing, this is going to work out great. And if this works well, I might just stick inside of a square journal for a while. I'm going to keep the layout of these pretty easy just because I've already done a decent amount of work to get these grids in here. Over here on the left-hand side, we have a stamp for each month of the year. We'll do that January through December. I honestly don't even remember where I got these from, probably from a craft store, but they have the full month or the smaller month in here as well. My goal here, though, is still to keep the same functionality of a future log using the bullet journal method so that if something is going on that I need to move back or remember for a future month, I'll still be able to do that. For the dates, I'm going to be writing them in, and I'll be using the Zebra Sarasa Mark-On. This is a 0.5 millimeter tipped pen. And what I love about the Mark-On series is that this pen dries quickly, and if you go over top of it with a highlighter, it won't smear the ink. I'll come back and date these at another time, usually while we're just like lounging around or watching some TV. It's a nice little mindless activity to do. But now we'll move on to our next page. This is going to be a setup for trackers for Instagram and YouTube, and then I'll also set up a goal page over here as well. For the left-hand side, we're going to bring back out our Eric Small Thing stamp set here. It's the Chronicle one. We use that big pencil for the intentions page. Now we're going to be using this nice little 24/7 Chronicle stamp. I really like this. Fits well with our overall YouTube and Instagram tracking. And while we have our ink and our stamps out, I'm going to be using this dress shirt and this pen over here for my yearly goals. However, I don't want the nice day part of this. We're going to need washi tape anyway in a moment to hold down our stencils, but you can also do this for a stamp. What you can do is put a little piece of washi tape over whatever part of the stamp you don't want to get ink on it, and then you can go ahead and pull off your washi tape, and that way it's only going to stamp what you have the ink on. So it's a nice way to take out anything off of a stamp that you don't want or you don't need. One of my favorite parts about Eric Small Thing stamps are the nice little messages and positivity, but there are some times where I just don't want it to say nice day or good weekend or anything like that. I just need the icon. Since it's been a little bit since we've used the ink, anytime you have a shimmer ink and you don't use it for a few minutes, just give it a nice little twirl. That way we get that glitter mixed up, suspended inside of the ink, and we get that really great looking effect. If you haven't used Distress Oxide before, this is a fantastic medium that you can use inside of your bullet journal. What I love is that it is a pigmented ink. So what you can do is you use this brush here. We're going to put some of that ink onto the brush, and then we're going to brush it over top of a stencil in this case. Some people also use this for card making. You can create a lot of different like gradients and colors and things like that. But stencils, Distress Oxide in my bullet journal just make me so happy. This is a stencil from Sunny Streak that I got a bit ago. It's really cool because if you use this inside of like an A5 size journal, or you could use it in a square one too, you can just use this as a stencil and go over top of it, and it creates like a whole weekly page. I only need this section down here for myself. What I'm going to do is set up these side by side, and I'm just going to put all the number milestones that I want to reach here, and then I'll put the date over here on this section. So it's already set up. This just helps me remove an extra step from drawing out one of these on this page. You're also going to need washi tape. This is just a good best practice when using these. It's going to do two things for you. One, it's going to hold your stencil in place as you're going over top of it. And the second biggest thing is that it will actually kind of cover up anything that you don't want to accidentally mark onto your page. So this chart here is a little bit close to this one here. So when I lay down this washi, I'll actually cover up this section here just so that the brush doesn't accidentally go over top of there and make any mistakes. All right, so we'll go and take our smallest brush that we have. We're going to go ahead and just rub it over top of this ink pad here to get a lot of this ink onto the brush. And then we're just going to brush over top of the stencil. And now when we pull it up, we have ourselves our box. So I'm going to go ahead and do this 3 more times across this page. We'll have 2 over here for the Instagram tracker and 2 of the same one over here for the YouTube tracker. My goals collection page last year was pretty straightforward, just small arrows, 2023 goals, and wrote them out here. I liked this, but there wasn't any room for me to write down any notes or any updates. And that's really important, especially with work goals and objectives. I have to report on those throughout the year. So I want to give myself a little bit of extra space to do that on this spread. We're actually going to be using the same exact stencil. I'm just going to be using this top half here, which is usually used for a weekly spread to put the days of the week. I'm going to turn this sideways, which is going to give me 6 boxes to put those goals inside of. I'll be able to write the goal inside of here, and then any dates that I've completed or milestones, I'll put in the smaller section over on the right-hand side. We're going to have 2 columns of these here, so all I have to do is just sit this down twice, go over top of it with our Distress Oxide, and I'll be done with my page. Now, a little bit of color over here, so I'll be using Mermaid Lagoon over on this side of the page. I'll be using the same brush. I just wiped it off with the wet paper towel and dried it real quick, so it should be good to go. Like I mentioned, you got to cover up everything you don't want shown. I totally forgot about this little 2A punch out here on this stencil. We got a little bit over here, which we'll get rid of in just a moment. Got to cover that one up before we do the rest of the page. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this here. If you haven't used a sand eraser before, this has been an amazing addition to my toolbox, especially with working with stamps and ink. It's a sand eraser, so it's a very gritty eraser. And essentially what it does is kind of takes up like a layer of paper off of your notebook, but it essentially erases ink off of your paper, which is pretty cool. I'm a big proponent of celebrating small wins. So with my tracker, especially for Instagram, I like to set them up in increments of 100 or 200. If I go much higher than that, I'm not growing that quickly on Instagram. So it's never something that I'm like, oh gosh, I have to make it a really big number. But I also don't want to make it too small. And then this tracker is essentially used up, in almost 0 time. So this time around, I'm going to set them up by increments of 200. I'm currently at 25,000 followers on Instagram. So I'll start with 25.2. 25.4, and so on. So essentially this tracker will take me up to almost 28,000 followers, which is crazy for me to even fathom, but always looking for reaching new goals and new heights with Instagram. For YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and do the same increment scale. Every 200 new subscribers, I'll go ahead and add a little success milestone. So this will take me all the way up to almost reaching 19,000 subscribers, which is another really amazing goal to get towards. And all of my goals for this year will have to wait because these will all be related to work, and we haven't had that conversation just yet, but I'll be filling in this section once I get the new goals and objectives for the new year. All right, next up on our collection page is going to be our help desk tracker. I've been using this for the past 2 journals, and it was such a great idea just to put all of my help desk tickets when I'm calling what's going on into one place. So that'll be going over here. We'll be using this fun stationery stamp here from Watch Them. I got this from my friends over at Desk Gems. Really love that. That'll go over here in this section. Then I'll create a header that says Help Desk, so 2 lines for that. And then we're going to go ahead and grid out this page to have space for the note or the ticket number and then the date in which we are calling and the action was taken. Those 2 things are super important. For our lines for this page, we'll just be using another flat edge ruler, and then I'm going to be using a fine marker from Faber-Castell. These are just the black Pit Artist pens. When I was a people manager, I used to have a one-on-one for every single one of my team members that I had. But now that I'm an individual contributor, I'm mostly meeting with my boss for one-on-ones and every now and again with other people. But to be honest with you, it's just one of those things that I'll just write them in my weekly. If I need any information or pull anything out, I can. And if any of my individual meetings turn into reoccurring ones, I can always create a new one-on-one page in my bullet journal. It doesn't always have to be all together in the front. What I'm deciding to do is essentially consolidate a bunch of my individual meetings that I had around the design community at work. We had lead team meetings, we had design community lunch and learn meetings, and then also just our larger quarterly meetings as well. Instead of giving them each their own individual page, they're just going to share a page. For me in this journal, it's about simplicity. Yes, I'm using stamps and some fountain pens, but overall it's pretty basic. But man, I just got to take a moment. I just have to take a moment to just appreciate this ink. It has amazing shading, a little bit of extra pizzazz to it. I'm really loving the way that everything's turning out so far inside of here. It's got me really excited. All right, the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and set up our first weekly inside of this journal. These weekly pages have to do a few things for me. First, it has plenty of room for notes and tasks. That was a really big part of my wants and my needs for a new journal. And having this 8x8 and a full page spread here that's going to do this for me is pretty exciting. This is also going to give me a dedicated space for tasks throughout the week, a weekly overview just to have those dates on there and any events, meetings, appointments that might be coming up. And then this section over here is going to be for capacity tracking. So I talked about using this a lot for my team in my different notebooks that I had, but it's a part of our weekly ritual and planning that we do to gather and say, how busy am I? What am I working on? And I track that for myself and I use that data month over month, year over year. The thing is I don't want to have to redraw that every single week. And so something that I did in that previous one you saw was I created a printable for myself that I can use that can capture the names of the team and then an area over here for the actual capacity number. And I've made them thin enough that they'll go through this Xyron create a sticker. And essentially what I'll do is add a sticky backing to it. So I can use this paper with a sticky back and it's going to fit perfectly into my notebook. I'm so excited that we've set up so much inside of my bullet journal already for this new year. It's rare that I get to start a new journal right at the beginning of the year, but this one just totally worked out. I'm really excited for this starting theme. The truth is that I'm always using stamps and ink and fountain pens inside of my bullet journal. So technically it will stay on theme all year long. It's not really something I'm worried about, but I'm really liking the look. I love using stamps inside of my bullet journal. I love using fountain pens and fountain pen ink inside of my bullet journal. And some of the other notebooks of the past just weren't handling it as well as I wanted it to. And so far, Archer and Olive has done a great job with fountain pens. There's only been a few times in my entire history of working with their notebooks that I've had an issue. I'm so excited for all of the pages that I've already created inside of this bullet journal. I'm so ready for the new year. I just have a few things I need to fill out, just finishing off the calendar pages and getting the rest of the dates in for the rest of the year. And also spending some time reflecting on my intentions page. What do I want this notebook to be for me? Where do I want to focus? And where do I hope to be by the time we're done with this notebook? There are so many great features that I'm excited to use inside of here, from a simplistic tracker, focusing on these numbers. And as much as I was weary about moving away from a future log inside of my bullet journal, since it is a staple core page, I think that I've upgraded it to the next level, allowing me to do both, adding things directly onto a calendar page for planning, while also leaving space to add things that I'm migrating back into my future log from current weeklies, notes, and collections. It's kind of the best of both worlds, and I'm really happy about it. I love that I've been able to condense down some of my other pages into one, having one full collection for all of my design community things instead of individuals across the board. I hope that you found some inspiration from today's video. Definitely let me know in the comments section down below if any of these spreads really interested you. I'd love to talk more with you down there and also learn about what you're doing this upcoming year as well. Thanks so much for hanging out and watching. I can't wait to share more creative ideas coming up in the very near future inside of our bullet journals. Talk to you soon. Bye.